JJ, we got Johnson! We got Johnson at 26! We got Johnson at 26! This is great!
It is Matt, it is Richie. We are hanging out with the Jets Lounge guys. Richie, my man, how's it going?
Matt, this is sick. We're at the Jets Lounge event in Farmingdale. The main event is what it's called. We got the entire Rucker family over there. Jets!
And here we are, Jets, Jets. And that was the story yesterday. That was the story at the Hall of Fame ceremony when Joe Klecko called out to the New York Jets fans, and the New York Jets fans delivered, and Fireman had delivered. And boy, did that sound like just music to my ears, because it is the greatest soundtrack in the NFL. The New York Jets fans with our chants, Jets, Jets. Let's say hello to some of the listeners. Proud New York Jets fans, my Wednesday night co-host. It is dark and cold without Jeremy's warm, kind soul. Boy, do I have him fooled, don't I? Grandizer, thank you so much. He is my moderator, helping me out, letting you know that you could join the channel and become a snacker. A light snacker, a heavy snacker, super snackers. So if you are a snacker, basically I do whatever the hell you want. And you know what I mean? The higher level of snacker, the more I'll do for you. You know, you want to be a heavy snacker or a super snacker? You want to come on the show? I'll let you on the show. I'll basically let you do whatever you want to do. So all you got to do is join and become a snacker. That's the little join button right on the homepage there when you look down. Jets Turbulence Podcast. What's up, my brother? It's good to see you. Harlan Abraham is in the house, welcoming everybody, making sure everybody gets those warm and fuzzies. Hank G, what's going on, my brother? It's good to see you. It is Tony Alexio. Yes, it is the Chaos Package. Small Heath Jet Petroleum is in the house. What is up, brother? Always good to see you. And David Gerard is here. What's going on? To our friend, David Gerard. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you here. New York Jets super fan. I almost missed you. It's good to see you. Kay Yeti is here. And my buddy Hank G is here. We're all piling in to talk some football on Sunday night. And that's what I like. When we're back in season form, talking the Jets, especially after a preseason game, especially after two New York Jets get inducted to the Hall of Fame. We got a great night in store for you, but I have to introduce and bring in my co-host. And man, it's so confusing. Some people beg me to stop doing this, but most people are disappointed if I don't. And I'm going to go by majority rules, and I'm going to give you my famous intro. If I can get it to actually play. Come on. There we go. There we go. He needs the music. This man needs the music. He spends his days taking care of his kids. He's got to take care of his wife. He's got to be a husband in Connecticut, no less. There's a lot of pressure in Connecticut. They all have these yards and front lawns, and it's like, it's I don't know, got our homes with land and greenery, and then it snows, and you got to go out and shovel. And he has his hat on, so it makes him sweat. And then he has to take his hat off, and then he catches cold. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the meatball parmesan hero eating, the pizza ordering. I'll have mine with pepperoni, please. The chicken cutlet parmesan with ziti, the chicken French with the same sauce, and the good bread to dip in that lemon wine sauce. Please welcome my co-host, the greatest Sunday night co-host in the world, Vincenzo.
I never get tired of these intros, Jeremy. Never.
You must just be wondering where it comes from.
A lot of built up energy. A lot. Good evening, everyone here in the lounge, everybody in the chat, and a very, very, very happy post Hall of Fame weekend. I just want to extend my, congratulations to the 2 Hall of Fame inductees that the Jets have put in. Obviously, number one, long overdue, Joe Klecko, one of my dad's personal favorites, one of the main reasons why, he picked the Jets as his team, why I'm a fan. The only man still to this day, the only player in history of the league to go be voted to the Pro Bowl at 3 different positions. And then a guy that I loved watching, the 2 stints he had with us here at the New York Jets, Darrelle Revis, Super Bowl champion, unfortunately with our rivals. Absolutely one of the best shutdown corners I ever saw in my lifetime, besides maybe Charles Woodson or Primetime. And being able to be fortunate enough to watch the Jets, play in the Hall of Fame game for the first time since '92. So honestly, it was awesome to see that. We're going to talk about the Hall of Fame game, some of the things we saw, liked, disliked, and everything in between. Jeremy, what do you got to say about that?
It's been a great few days. We started Thursday night with the Hall of Fame game, which I thought went great. There was so many more positives than negatives. So many good things happened on Thursday night that made me happy. I was a little shocked. The only down part of it, and I got to learn to ignore Twitter and Facebook in these group pages, is there are just Jet fans that will find mold in fresh, clean, beautiful sponge cake. I don't know how to say it. Like they'll find bad in everything. And it amazes me because I thought that Thursday night was great. I thought all the things that I was looking for happened. I couldn't write it any better. I mean, I could write it a little bit better, but overall, wow. Like there was some really good positives that came out of Thursday, and there was actually very little negatives to me. And then spending Saturday with Green Bean on Jets Talk, on that channel, talking and covering and following and just hanging out for the Hall of Fame inductions and getting Sack to call in and getting Ryan to call in and just all of us together. So many people came in and out. So many people were in the chat just to enjoy this moment together. And some people go back to the Klecko generation. So it was very moving for those of us. And then you had the Revis for the younger fans. It was very moving for them. And it was just overall great weekend.
Yeah, I loved every second of it. There's obviously some holes we need to discuss on this team. A couple surprises. We had a surprise cut that you mentioned on one of your earlier videos today. I believe that was Nasruddin. Things are expected, 6th round draft pick. I've always had this theory when you get into the draft, 6th and 7th round draft picks, you get to a point where you're just throwing darts against the board and you're hoping to strike gold. But, whatever. There's issues with this team that still can be addressed in preseason. There's always surprise cuts at the end of the preseason. We could still make a trade, bring in some more depth. I think we have to also acknowledge, what exactly is going on with Mekhi Becton with his knee for a guy that was expected to play between 20 to 25 snaps. And then he goes out there and plays 7. It's very concerning. And then to hear him say in the post game that, a man of his size can't handle something with that type of field that was there in Canton. Well, I mean, newsflash, Mackay, you're going to be playing on that style of field for 10 out of the 17 games this year. So I don't know if we have our right tackle, situated on this team. Also, I did not like personally the play of Zach Wilson. His first series, he goes 3 and out, and on third down, he stumbles over his own feet. I mean, I don't see an improvement with Zach Wilson with what I saw from last year to this year. Like, I know he had the nice 57-yard bomb to Taylor down the sideline, but if you subtract that, say, God forbid, Taylor drops the pass, you know what I mean? What are we talking about this week with our QB2 situation? I still firmly believe QB2 is not on the roster. I think the Jets are still trying to save face and salvage the pick, and they're going to do everything humanly possible to make Zach look good in this preseason. But, I mean, there's no way they're picking up that kid's option.
Can I address a couple of things, though?
Please.
Becton absolutely dominated all 7 snaps. Dominated. He dominated. Did you watch the highlights?
I did watch the highlights.
Stood people up. One guy got by him and he pushed the guy what he was supposed to do 10 yards past that. Zach Wilson, he dominated. He took himself out, and I understand it's frustrating, but you can't knock him for it. He did the smart thing. It's an exhibition game. It's preseason. It means nothing. If you feel discomfort in your knee, if you're playing on shitty turf, why are you upset that he took himself out? It doesn't mean he's going to take himself out of the game when it's a real game. He's saying it's a meaningless game.
It is a meaningless game.
Right. I played
7 snaps.
I got my reps. But but that was because it would have been more than 7 snaps. It's because we didn't have any offense. We were 1, 2, 3 and out, so he didn't have the opportunity to play more snaps. But look, I'm not saying that it's not very concerning. It's extremely concerning. It is. But if you look up the injury and you look up the surgery and when it is perfectly normal for any person of any size for it to still have pain. He has to psychologically adjust to that. I agree. He has to get used to the idea that he's never going to feel healthy. He's going to have bad days where his knee's going to be bothering him. And his instinct right now, and it's hard to blame him after missing 2 years, is, oh shit, he panics when he feels pain there because it cost him 2 seasons and he's worried that he re-injured it, right? That's a normal human reaction. He's 24 years old. He's a kid. He's scared. That's it. It's his livelihood. He feels pain in his knee and he doesn't like it, right? And Salah said it. He's got to get confident. He's got to be able to discern the difference between a knee that's still recovering from serious reconstructive surgery versus he re-injured it.
I agree. But here's my thing with that is just you're playing against second and third stringers, and the only way to build that confidence is by reps. And the way you're going to get those reps is in the preseason.
Well, preseason's not over. There's 3 more games or 2 more games or whatever. There's still 2 scrimmages against other teams. There's plenty of time for him to get more reps. Now, I don't know the situation. I'm not saying I'm not happy about it that he only played 7 reps. But I'm not going to completely judge him because if he would have played the 8th rep and gotten hurt and ripped up his knee on that turf, we'd all be screaming, how stupid to let him play on that bad turf knowing he's recovering from this knee injury. And then the thing with Zach, you're saying, oh, he stumbled and fell and didn't change. Last year, when a linebacker was coming clean at him and he tried to put on a move and hurt his knee, we said he was stupid. Why would you do that? It's a preseason game. And now he goes down to the ground and you're going to criticize him for that?
Well, here's the thing.
He was right there, head on head. It's just a preseason game. He went down to protect himself. Why is that a bad thing?
Well, here's the thing, though. It's just, do I want the team to address the QB2 situation? I do. Because if, God forbid, Aaron Rodgers goes down and has to miss time and this kid has to come in, I don't have any confidence that he could lead us to victory. But with that said, let's be real here. If, God forbid, Aaron Rodgers does miss a game or 2 or significant time, can we just say the season is over? It probably is. Look to Josh Allen or Joe Burrow. If either one of them get hurt and their second quarterback comes in and say their season, are they winning the Super Bowl? Are they going to the playoffs? No. So I don't think we're going to upgrade QB2. I think they're just going to roll with the punches and hope for the best.
Well, the reality is if that Aaron Rodgers is somehow, God forbid, knock on wood, lost for the season, then our season is probably over. But I want to remind you, before he lost his confidence and got the yips, the idea for Zach is to get his confidence back. Because not saying he was a star or he was great or anything. I'm not even saying he was good. He was 5-2 before he got the yips. Before that New England game, he was enough with a good defense and a good running game to manage the game. I'm not in wonderment of him. He put up 150 yards. I'm not bragging about his play. I'm just saying he certainly was good enough to be a QB2 in those 7 games that we were 5-2, right?
In those games, yes, but the numbers were not drastic. They were like it was poor numbers though for victories, Jeremy. I mean, he was just barely cracking 100 yards to finish the game, and at the level of the National Football League, that is not tolerable.
Right,
it's not.
But that's almost any NFL team with a backup quarterback. You just want them to not make mistakes and give you a chance to win the game.
Hence why we made a move for Aaron Rodgers.
Now, yeah. I mean, the problem is when we were 5-2, I knew that he was a backup quarterback at that moment. He wasn't ready yet. And people were saying he's 5-2. And I said, those people are being ridiculous because you're watching the games and you know he's not a good quarterback.
No, like the defense was winning in spite of the kid. The defense was winning in spite of him.
But that's what you get from a backup quarterback. So I'm saying if we get the QB2 from last year before the New England game, that's an okay QB2. We can't have the guy who played against New England. And then after that, we can't have the guy in the last 7 games, the guy who had no confidence, the guy who had the yips that we had a bench. We can't have that, Zach Wilson. But there are 2. There's one before he got the yips, and there's one after he got the yips. So the question is, I'm not thrilled about it. If Aaron Rodgers goes down, I'm going to be terrified because what if he gets nervous and we get the bad one? We certainly can't trust him. But I go back to what you said yourself. If Aaron Rodgers goes down for a long, extended period of time, it's pretty much over anyway because we're not going to beat Kansas City, Buffalo, and the rest, Cincinnati, and the rest of the very challenging AFC without Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly, 100%. And there's fans out there. You have to understand when things go bad for any team in the National Football League, the favorite player on the roster with the fans always becomes the backup quarterback. That's not going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers isn't going to go out there and put Zach Wilson numbers of 100 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 pick. I'm expecting 300 plus week 1 against Buffalo. I'm expecting that. That's why you make a power move and bring in an Aaron Rodgers. And if we get to the playoffs and he suffers an injury, God forbid, I don't want to hear any bullshit about these Cinderella stories about Nick Foles and Jeff Hostetler. Listen, there's been, 55 Super Bowls? Only 2 backup quarterbacks won the whole thing. I don't want to hear about Cinderella stories. If we're going to win the whole thing, it's going to be with Aaron Rodgers under center.
Look, there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. We need Aaron Rodgers to stay healthy. There's no argument there. There's no dream that Zach Wilson is going to come in and lead us to glory and be great. We can't count on that. We'd be foolish to count on that. All we can do is if Aaron Rodgers was to get hurt, God forbid, knock on wood, all we could do is just root and hope and support as fans. That's all we could do is root for Zach Wilson. It doesn't mean we're going to walk around saying, I think we can really win with him. No, but we're going to root for him. We're going to root for him.
As long as he's wearing green and white, I'm going to continue to support him. If he's off this team or traded from this team, I could care less what will happen to Zach Wilson at that point. But going back to Becton, your quarterback is only as good as your offensive line. This team had, I think, it led the league in combinations of offensive linemen. We tried it out in front of our quarterbacks. We can't be having that this coming year. That's why I need to know, is this guy the starting right tackle or not? And if he is, which I'm rooting for him, we need to secure more depth on this offensive line. If you're keeping track of NFL free agency out there, there's quality starters out there, maybe not to start, but provide depth behind this line. George Fant, who he was here before, he's still out there. Eric Fisher, the former first overall pick, he's out there. They're 31 and 32 years old. Dwayne Brown's almost 40. Why can't we bring him in on a 3-year deal? Or $3 million deal, 1 year. Just get some depth in here.
Hey, I don't argue that. As far as Becton is concerned, after watching the way he played and after seeing the way he played his rookie year, I'm just going to say this. I'm happy for any amount of snaps that he can give us. I agree we need depth, but I'm happy for whatever he could provide us. If you told me now he's going to play 70% of the snaps this year, I'll take it. And then we got to figure out who's going to play the other 30%. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to root for the guy like crazy. I'm going to pray he stays healthy, because when he's healthy, he's good.
Exactly.
Very good.
Exactly.
But can we trust it? Can we feel secure? No, of course not. But we knew that. We talked about that the whole time. For a year, we've been saying, don't count on Becton. He's a bonus. He's a bonus. And that's why we all wanted to draft an offensive lineman originally, a tackle, with the 15th pick. Right? That's why we all thought we were taking Broderick, because we all thought we need a tackle that we're not reliable. We don't have anybody that we can really trust. Right. Now, and on the flip side, what I'd like to find out, and maybe he can help answer it, is how did Max Mitchell play? Because he's a very important piece to this puzzle of our offensive line.
Exactly. And a positive I do want to mention, because I know I've been negative so far, but let's bring up some positives of what, who did impress me from this rookie class in the Hall of Fame game? Carter Warren, that they took in the 4th round from Pittsburgh. He played an excellent game against the Cleveland Browns. And I'm not saying I want to see Carter Warren this year at all, because if he has to see playing time, it means the season has started to become a disaster. I don't want to see that at all. But he could be a swing tackle. He could be a developmental piece. But I will say this, whether we have a great season this year, a so-so season, or God forbid a crappy season, I think our first pick next year, we're going to be going offensive line primarily at the tackle position. What do you think?
Well, I don't argue that. The first time we get up on that podium, it will be, because it's Joe Douglas's MO anyway. And we have a lot of question marks next year. Forget about this year. Next year, we're definitely going to have question marks, because we didn't extend Becton. So he's gone. Dwayne is gone. So we're definitely going to have question marks at the offensive line. There's no argument there. But right now I'm looking at this year. So we just have to look at what we have this year, and just hope it's enough. And then next offseason, we'll figure it out. I do want to say we are not a week before the start of the season. We got 37 days left before the start of the season to figure out the offensive line. So we have plenty of money and cap space for this year. So what you're saying might happen. So let's hang in there and let's wait and see what JD does. But before we move on, let's find out how these guys really did by looking at some tape. You want to look at some film?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, I got somebody who can do that. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I do have somebody who can do that. Please welcome the white manna sliding, eating, midway cheesesteak, sloppy with onions, devouring, season ticket holding, film all 22 reviewing, analytical geeking out at the Senior Bowl geeking, but says he's not a geek. Please welcome the greatest breakdown film artist in the world, Tom C.
Hello, gentlemen. Vinny, how are you, man?
Dom, good to meet you.
Likewise.
Oh,
Jeremy?
You guys never met?
No,
right,
first time. Always a good time. Pleasure, man.
Likewise, man.
We got a hot thing going on here, but we're, as you heard, we're talking a lot about the game and who played well and who didn't play well. And I know that you wanted to focus on some players. I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm going to let you choose the players because I know you had to do some preparation first.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't have NFL Plus has not put out all 22 film for the preseason game. Yeah.
So we're just going to have to go by rewatching.
They got they got the condensed version out. I watched it and I rewatched it. I didn't have a chance to do as much digging as I normally would or would like to do, but I think everyone kind of saw the game, and I think there's a lot of easy talking points in regards to, in essence, what it's a glorified scrimmage, because that's all it was. I mean, it was the Hall of Fame game. It was great to have football back, but I think we have, there's definitely some good talking points, some bad talking points, but in the grand scheme of things, I think we all have to remember it's just it's just a scrimmage. It really doesn't mean much. There's certain things that are uncomfortable, maybe as Jets fans, at least for myself. I'll speak for myself, not for everyone out here. Some things that made me a little bit uneasy, but I take as much out of the first scrimmage in the beginning of August as I do out of watching any of the practices I go to or any of the highlights of the practices that I see all over the Twitter sphere and all that stuff. So, I think we need to collectively, as a whole, as a unit, take a deep breath because it's only one scrimmage game so far. But I was in the background. I was listening to you guys, and I think everything that was said is fair in regards to Mekhi Becton and Zach Wilson and others. And although I might hold different opinions, I think they're all valid points. So listen, I'll say this much. I think that the one thing that I got after Thursday's game was I really hope that Dwayne Brown comes back healthy and plays up to the level that he played at last year, which was good. Average to good. Listen, he's not going to be an all-pro. He's not going to be a top 5 left tackle anymore, but he can definitely be an average to good left tackle. And I think if we can see that, or when we see that, him back on the field, off pup and back healthy, I think we're going to all collectively be able to take a good deep breath. Now, listen, is he the long-term answer? He's absolutely not the long-term answer, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm starting to question if that long-term answer is here on the roster right now. So we'll talk about the tackles first, since you guys already kind of introduced that. If that works with you, Jeremy, Vin.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
of course.
Great.
Yeah. So obviously we didn't see and again, this is just me watching the game and rewatching the game because I haven't, really had a chance to get into the coach tape. But I will say this. I don't know what to take from Mekhi Becton, and I think Jeremy hit the nail on the head is that anything that we get from him, in my opinion, anything that we get from him is gravy, because I have zero expectation of him being a, vital member of this starting 5 coming into the season. So, if he can prove it and get out there and be serviceable, that's great. But I'd be lying to myself if I said I expect him to come in and be, a 14-game contributor on the offensive line. I just don't. He's been out for 2 years. It's hard not to do. I'm a fan of the player. I'm a fan of the man. But in reality is that, the proof is in the production. And for 2 consecutive years, he's not been healthy enough to produce. So how can you bank on that? I don't think he's the right tackle. I think right now, if everyone stays healthy, I think, we're going into it with Dwayne Brown and Max Mitchell as our 2 tackles. Doesn't make me warm and fuzzy. I wish that wasn't the case, but more so likely that's how we're looking to go. This whole Billy Turner, fiasco that we're seeing during camp, that he's just holding his spot right now for Dwayne Brown to get healthy. I don't think that I don't think that there's a tackle coming that's going to get released that's going to move the needle enough to outseat a healthy Dwayne Brown or Max Mitchell. And again, like I said, I don't feel warm and fuzzy. I mean, I think Max Mitchell is a nice player. I don't necessarily particularly think he played all that well on Thursday. But he's come back with a few good practices since then. Had a really good practice today. Very physical. They ran to the right side a lot. And, him and AVT really did a good job. Again, it's just practice, but, he fixed some of the things that I saw him really not be there. Now, rewinding to Max Mitchell's last year, I think Vinny was the one who said it, man. I don't think I had any expectation of him playing. You took him in the 4th round. You hope that he kind of takes a redshirt year, gets a little stronger, develops, and, ultimately maybe he can become a swing tackle, your swing tackle, or maybe work himself into a starting job at, 2 years down the road. He was thrust into the action earlier than any of us wanted or expected. And he had his hot and cold moments. Overall, I think it was probably last year, I'd say if I had to give him a letter grade, I'd say I'd give him like a C minus, but that's what you expect for a 4th round rookie from the Sun Belt Conference, who was probably, 20 pounds underweight, playing at a, 6'6", 299 pounds. But I just don't think that, you saw him practice very well, and you know that Salo likes him and has been waxing him poetic all off season, and you haven't heard his name a lot. I think that's a big thing. An important part is that, people who kind of lie down low in the weeds, they're not making a lot of noise, whether it's probably more so bad than good. You know what I mean? So nothing bad has come about from Max Mitchell. So, you had some good, you had some high hopes going into this first game, and he just didn't play well, and again, I'm going to take it with a grain of salt. It was the first scrimmage, first game situation. But the things that he was good at, you saw him miss a lot. I saw, he had a tendency last year to always end up off his feet. You know what I mean? Whether it's he's getting crossed up or he's lunging gets his weights too forward over his knees and ends up on the ground. And you saw that time after time on Thursday, missing his marks in the running game, getting beaten in pass sets and stuff like that. Again, overall, not his best body of work, but just one practice, 1 week. And right now, I just don't see that there's any competition for him at the right tackle. So it doesn't make me warm and fuzzy, but you hope that he builds off of that week 1, that first game, and he builds off of a good week of practice heading into Carolina, another good week of practice where you're going to see some live competition, and hopefully that solidifies it. I think we're much better up the middle right now than we are on the ends, and that doesn't bode well for Aaron Rodgers, who has, over 17, 18 years in Green Bay, has had one of the best pass protecting offensive lines that, in the league. So this is going to be a little bit different, and Aaron Rodgers makes offensive lines better. So we'll see what happens. So that's my take on Max, is that I really wasn't very, very impressed. I'm not going to sit here and talk about Billy Turner, because I don't think he's anything more than a depth piece and a locker room guy. I know he's getting a lot of run right now. That's just because there's not a lot of healthy tackles. Seduced, whatever his name is, that we got from, we signed as a free agent, another depth piece. He's been hurt. You have Carter Warren, another 4th round tackle who had a couple good plays, had a couple, really bad plays a lot of things that you saw, some of the negatives that you saw on film of his in college came to life in the game yesterday, where he has a very, very weak inside. So he has a tendency, and guys who get beat across the face or to the inside have a tendency of doing what's called oversetting, where they're so worried about they're so worried about getting beat by speed on the outside, is that they'll rush to their mark real quick off balance with a wide base. So all it takes is a guy from the outside to just cut inside, and you have nothing more to get. Nothing there, no substance to pop and control him from the inside. So if you're not getting guard help, he has a tendency, if he's not getting guard help, he has a tendency of getting beat one-on-one from the inside. Now, again, not to sound overly negative, because there was a lot of good plays. Like I saw him, on 2 separate occasions, really, really shut down, just completely stall the rush. Just plants, anchors, and just mirrors very well. Like, again, very synonymous to what he did in college. He had some strengths in college, and that was one of the strengths. Is, and Jeremy probably remembers when we talked about him, I called him like a poor man's, oh my God, what is a poor man's Charles Cross from Seattle's rookie from last year, who was just known to be a phenomenal pass blocker, but wasn't sure what he was going to do in the run game because he was never asked to do it too much in college. And I saw a lot of that in Carter Warren. Again, not to Charles Cross level. Charles Cross was 9th overall pick. Carter Warren was a 4th rounder coming off of a complete meniscus repair. So, the jury was still out on what he could be. But, in the games, especially in his junior year, he did that stuff very, very well, mirrored very well, didn't get beat too much to the outside, did give up a little bit too much on the inside. It just was never really a powerful piece in the run game. Worked very well in space, very typical for a zone blocking scheme. He's his own blocking tackle, can move very well, good hips, good hip control, good feet, flexible ankles, all that stuff that you need to be a good offensive lineman in, the zone blocking scheme in space. But the power, the drive was never there in college. And I don't know if it's ever going to be there. I think the ceiling on him, you hope that he's on that same trajectory as Max Mitchell was, right? Is that you give him a couple years to develop and then he, turns into a good swing tackle, or maybe he earns a spot on, on the left side for, a year or two, maybe can earn a second contract. But the jury's way, way, way still out on him. He's still very, very raw. So those are the 2 tackles that we're dealing with right now. And I think that's our weak spot on the offensive line. I know that last year, Lincoln Tomlinson was very, very underwhelming. And I think a guy of his stature and his tenure in the league, playing at such a high level for 2 different organizations for so many years, I think you just, I'm willing to kind of wipe the slate clean and give him a fresh take and say that last year was a transition. I know they went through a lot of personal stuff, the death of a very close family member, the move where his kids and his family didn't move with him to New Jersey, a whole smorgasbord of stuff that probably caused him to kind of be a little bit off kilter. So I'm going to give him a shot to kind of rebuild that and hope that he gets back to that playing at that level that he did in San Francisco and Detroit for so many years. And then you got the right side, and I think as long as AVT stays healthy, I mean, he's probably your strongest, or best lineman out of the 5. The reality is, and again, not to sound like Nelly negative here, but the reality is that AVT hasn't stayed healthy in 2 seasons yet. He hasn't made it through unscathed in a whole year, so he's got to show he can do that too.
What do you think of Tippmann? Played a lot.
Tippmann played a lot. Tippmann played really good. Tippmann played really, really good. So the thing with Tippmann, and I know that I found it very peculiar that like social media, like has completely just already labeled the guy, like a bust and that he stinks and this and that. It's kind of it's almost funny, but it's also like a little sad, a little disappointing that that people react to players and such, as we're not even 2 full weeks into camp yet. But that's social media for you. I'll say this about Tippmann. His game, how he played on Thursday, I thought was very well. I thought he played very, very well. What I wanted to see from Tippmann, like I knew what he's so Tippmann and Carter Warren are kind of like polar opposites, right? I knew that Tippmann was going to come in and he was going to be a mauler in the run game. He came from Wisconsin offense, very, very heavy run-based offense. That was his forte. The guy for 6'6", 300 some odd pounds just moves so fluidly, so very well in space, gets up to the second level, just dog walks people in the run game. I was curious to see how he would hold up, and I'm still curious to see how he will hold up long-term against NFL caliber pass rush, because it's not that he's incapable. It's not that he's a bad against pass, but leverage is a real thing, right? And I'm sure anyone who has any inkling of football knowledge is, and the way to win leverage is to stay low. Fire low. You hear it all the time. Fire low, fire low, fire low. Joe Tippmann, 6'6". So getting down and playing at a low pad level like that, with NFL caliber strength and athletic ability on the defensive line, is going to be a challenge, and it's still going to be a challenge. But I thought he held up very well. I mean, I think I'm not huge on PFF. I'm not a PFF stan or anything like that, but I know that he graded out as the Jets' second best offensive lineman, the best against the pass, the second best overall. I think Greg Sinat had a better PFF grade for the game. But he anchored down, and he, on a couple big pass plays, especially Zach's big 55-yarder to Taylor. Joe Tippmann anchored down and held that pocket open so Zach could look right, have time, clear pocket, no pressure, and heave it up to Taylor down the left sideline. So that was one of many plays that I thought that Tippmann showed me what I wanted to see. He was a dog in the run game, and that's going to be easy. It's how he can transition and really play with a low pad level against the pass, where these guys are driving out. They're strong as an ox, and they can get underneath you and gain the leverage. If he can withhold that or figure out how to, strengthen up his core and those hips and really anchor down and stop those rushes, I think you got a really, really good player. Now, Tippmann, in last year's draft, Tippmann was my 5th overall interior lineman. Truth be told, full disclosure, I was very, very high on John Michael Schmitz. He was my number 1. Andrew Voorhees, the guard from USC, who ultimately tore his ACL in the combine. He was my 2nd, and then I had Steve Avila, and I had Luke Whippler from another center from Ohio State over Joe Tippmann. But I knew Joe Tippmann was going to go on, in day 1 or day 2. He's a NFL level, a very good NFL caliber center. So I think there's all this hooting and hollering about him running with the 2s and the 3s in practice. I mean, Robert Saleh hasn't been one yet in all his tenure here to just hand anyone anything. He didn't
even start Garrett Wilson last year.
Sauce Gardner on the first depth chart. Sauce Gardner was 2nd and 3rd on the depth chart. You know what I mean? Garrett Wilson didn't really bust out until week 2.
Right.
So.
Right.
So, Dom, let me ask you this. As far as Tippmann goes right now, do you think there's still an opportunity for him in the preseason to be able to run with the 1s in a preseason game? And secondly, do you think Aaron Rodgers is going to feel comfortable taking snaps from a rookie center, or do you see him more, having a better shot at just taking the snaps from Connor McGovern?
Well, kind of both, if I can answer it that way, and let me explain. I talked about Tippmann coming from Wisconsin, very strong run-based offense there in Wisconsin. The one thing that he didn't do is snap the ball in shotgun. He had a quarterback underneath him, 90 to 95% of the time. So snapping and still staying low and engaging in the rushers, snapping to a quarterback who's not under center, in the shotgun, is something that is relatively new. I mean, he did it, but he didn't do it often. Something that's relatively new to Joe Tippmann. And again, being as big as he is at 6'6", it could tend to cause problems in balance and leverage and so on and so forth. So, to his credit, Joe Tippmann has been the first guy out every single practice, 20 minutes, half hour before anyone else is, and he's just snapping the ball, and prepping and getting, doing all his work. He's got somebody on a bag in front of him, hitting him. He's on the field 15 to 20 minutes before anyone else. So he's trying to hone his craft.
That sounds like somebody who is, whenever I hear things like that, it seems like that's the kind of thing you hear about for stars. Like Watt used to do that, like I just hear and feel like those kind of guys always end up being really good.
Yeah. So do I think he can earn the job? Yeah, I absolutely do. Do I think he will start week 1? I don't know. I will say this. I don't think him running with the 2s and the 3s so far in camp is indicative to saying that he's definitely not starting. Now, to the second part of your question, Vin, do I think Aaron Rodgers is more comfortable with a veteran under center? I do. I'm not going to say that he's uncomfortable with. He would be uncomfortable with Pittman. I mean, I don't know what Aaron Rodgers' preference is, but I do know that Aaron Rodgers has free reign and complete flexibility to change plays and adjust everything on the fly. So he's going to need somebody who can also adjust the line calls on there, and you just tend to lean towards veteran leadership in those situations, right? As opposed to a rookie. So do I think if I had to bet my mortgage on something, Vin, I'm going to say Joe Tippmann earns his spot as the starter at some point this season. Maybe it's not week 1, maybe it's by the bye week. It could be earlier for all I know, but I think I think that he is a starting NFL center, and he's going to be a damn good one. I think he's going to be a very damn good one. There's very few people on that offense that are as dominant as on that offensive line that are as dominant run blockers as Joe Tippmann is right now at 22.
So I want to imagine a scenario. Imagine Dwayne Brown comes back. Becton, imagine just for a second, we think positively, and Becton actually stays healthy. Okay. It's not impossible. Everyone's acting like he's definitely going to be hurt. Let's say he's not. Let's say he's just going through the normal recovery of an ACL, and he's going to have bad days, and he's going to have to understand that, because that's what I think the problem is. He feels something there, and he panics because he's traumatized because what happened the last 2 years. But let's say he gets over it. Let's say he's healthy. Can we imagine that for a second, since that's the plan, right? Let's say he wins the right tackle job, right? Dwayne Brown comes back to camp. He can't really play right tackle. They decide the best 5 out there with Becton healthy is he's playing right tackle, and then Max Mitchell is our swing. Okay? So then I want you to think of this. If Tippmann was to win that job, think about the right side of our offensive line for the running back. You got Tippmann, you got AVT, and a healthy Becton. Now you're gonna want Ruckert there, or any of our tight ends there. They can all block. Or you have if Baldwin makes the roster, he's the fullback going to that side. It feels like we're going to have some success running the ball in that direction.
It does, absolutely. The only caveat to that, Jeremy, is Mekhi Becton has yet to take one snap in camp at right tackle.
I know.
He's been left tackle only.
There's 37 days left, though.
And then that's what's so discouraging, and that's why I'm not going to be shocked or floored at all if it's true what somebody put out there. And I think it was just a hit piece, but you know what? If they flip the guy before the end before week 1, I won't be shocked. And the thing that stinks is, what are you getting for a Mekhi Becton that hasn't played football in 2 years? I think the ceiling will be a 5th round pick.
It's not enough.
Listen, I'll say this: there's probably I am not a screw the beat kind of guy. But if there's one guy that I take zero interest and zero following of anything that he says, it's Rich Cimini. I cannot. But in fairness, again, full disclosure, there's smoke around that same situation. He's not the only one to say it. I mean, Koss has said it in the post. Connor Hughes has said the same thing. Listen. And listen, it's not what I would do, and it's not what I like to hear, but there is a very, very good possibility that he's not on the roster come the end of 53. Now, if you told me you had a healthy Dwayne Brown in camp already, and Max Mitchell was 2 steps ahead of the game of where you thought he was going to be, and you were comfortable with Carter Warren and
Turner.
Yeah, the turnstile as your backup tackles, then okay. You know what? If you got to get rid of them, get rid of them. But that's not the case right now. You know what I mean? That's not the case right now. So
No, we don't have enough depth on this offensive line to make a move like that. I think the only situation would be, like you said, Dom, if you're comfortable with Mitchell and Brown starting, you're okay with, Turner as the swing. And then at that point, you just keep Becton on the roster up until the trade deadline, wait for another team in the league, hopefully from the NFC, to have a devastating injury at tackle. And then you could see if you can get everything you possibly could out of the guy.
Yeah. And
Well, I mean, what if he's healthy and he's playing really, really well?
Well, then I want him on the team.
Right.
I'm rooting for the guy.
You're right, Vinny. The best case scenario for the Jets, not for the Jets fans, but I think the best case scenario for the Jets is that he's healthy and that he can play. And even if he's not the starting right tackle, that he's there and he can step in if needed. And everyone feels comfortable. Again, my ideal is that he's healthy enough and he shows some sort of flashes of he did during his rookie year, and he is our starting right tackle. But unfortunately, I think that ship has sailed for me right now. Again, camp's still young. We got 5 weeks left, right? 5 weeks, 6 weeks, something like that. So
37 days.
Yeah,
37 days to Buffalo.
I don't claim to have any any knowledge, insider knowledge of anything, but if I had to guess, is that he's probably not going to be the starting right tackle. So the best case scenario is that he's healthy and you have a solid depth piece in him this year, probably going to walk next year. And listen, if he's solid and healthy and he's not playing and he's the backup tackle, he might start barking, he might start chirping. He has not ruled out the idea of asking for a trade. Now, somebody talked about it. I don't know if it was you, Vinny, or you, Jeremy, in regards to a trade value. There's going to be no value.
None.
You're trading him at your absolute low. So the best case scenario is if Joe Douglas knows that he's not a part of a team, that you're going to showcase him. You're going to show that he's healthy, so on and so forth. And maybe you get somebody who's desperate to bite on him. But yeah, I can't imagine getting anything more, than a 5th or 6th round pick for him at this point. I mean, he cost $9 million. He's on an expiring contract. So he's a rental.
So if he's showcasing well and he's healthy, I say no to a 5th round pick. I'd rather have him on the field and just hope and pray he can make it through the season or a good portion of it.
Yeah. Now you don't know, who's going to, get jarred loose when the cuts come down in September, because most teams aren't forced, as in years past, to gradually break that or do your cuts. In the past they had to trim down the roster to 75 by this day, and then 60 by this day, and then 53 by opening day. Now they can just do it all at once. So there's a chance that somebody might get cut free, but I don't know if there's anybody that is of starting caliber that's going to be. I think our best case scenario is we hope that Dwayne Brown gets healthy, and that Max Mitchell can improve on his first showing in the preseason game, and they're your tackles. And thank God Aaron Rodgers has a quick release.
What is your does anybody have information on Dwayne Brown? Are they saying anything? When do they expect them?
Salah said 2 weeks, and that was at the end of last week. He said he's probably a week or two away.
So is this guy going to be playing in the preseason at all this year?
No, absolutely not. Probably not. Probably a couple practices. But listen, he's a 39-year-old vet. If he's and this might just be. Listen, I'm not saying he's healthy right now. I'm not saying he's not healthy. This could just be that he's 39. He doesn't need to really go through camp. You can bring him in and you can start. I mean, they did it last year, right? They brought him in. He practiced for a week and he started that Sunday. So it wouldn't be the first time that a veteran has gone through and started week 1 without a camp. Put it that way. So that I'm not worried about. Him not being in camp, I'm not worried about. As if it's one of those kind of tip your cap to the veteran kind of things, that's fine. But if it's because he's really not recovered from the shoulder, that's worrisome. I don't know what it is.
So that's why in 10 days from now, 11 days, we'd love to see him in camp, know that he's practicing, just to know that he's physically able to.
Yeah, I mean, listen, ideal situation, you want him in yesterday, right?
Yeah.
You want him here yesterday, but
Correct.
So moving on to a stronger part of our team, let's talk about the defensive line. Before we talk about McDonald, I know everyone's excited about the spin move. I do want to talk about his other plays.
Yeah.
Because I saw some other fun things about sealing the edge, the run, and all that.
yeah,
But did you watch Bryce Huff?
I did. I got to see a
And
lot of them, as a matter of fact.
were you satisfied with the way he played?
Yeah. I mean, listen, Bryce Huff is a problem. Bryce Huff and Will McDonald together are going to be a problem for NFL defenses. Now, I'm also of the belief, and I'm on the camp that Robert Saleh is definitely one of the best at the coach speak thing. He tells you exactly what the media wants to hear and what he thinks everyone wants to hear, but it might not be the truth. There's something in me that believes him when he says that, Bryce Huff playing as much as he did into the fourth quarter was not indicative of him trying to showcase, because I know that has been going around social media. I think that he was just, he was just playing. Like, you didn't play your starters. Bryce Huff's not a starter, right? He's a rotational piece, but he's not a starter. So I don't really necessarily think that had anything to do. You got a guy that gets off the ball against the pass as well as Bryce Huff does, he's going to be a problem. And that's exactly what he showed, even on the sack. He showed, he transferred, he jabbed, he put his foot in the ground, cut hard inside, transferred speed to power and got through the inside of that, and happened to be the quarterback, spun right into him. And, that's a sack. So, Bryce Huff is the least of my worries. Will McDonald was very impressive, I thought. I knew what he could do, and I knew how freaky his speed and his length was. And, having him just kind of perch outside, fire low in that wide 9 set to just get at the quarterback, I thought was, that was going to be a given. That was going to be a staple of his game. But he did. He showed he showed pretty well against the run. He has the innate ability to again, this is something that you'll hear me say a lot, is he's got a ridiculous strength and flexibility in his ankles, where he can have all his momentum going one way and he can just plant and stop and transition and get vertical or get horizontal, however he's doing. And he showed that numerous times. There was a bootleg at one point. I don't know if you guys remember the play. It was in the first quarter. There was a bootleg that was coming his way where the quarterback was, fake the handoff. He bit on it real quick, caught that it was a fake, and just stopped and got vertical and got right in the passing lane of the guy. He just does that real good. He closed down. He showed really, really good hand placement and strong technique with his hands. Followed his blockers and jammed, as Jeremy talked about, like sealing the edge a lot. Better than I expected. That's always going to be the knock coming into him, is that, he might just be a glorified pass rush specialist early on until he can get strength or until he can show. And, in a small sample size, he showed that he can do it. He showed that he can do it. Do I expect him to be on the field 60, 70% of the time? Absolutely not. But the defensive line is, especially at the edge position, is a sheer strength for the Jets, and I think that's something that we haven't been able to say in a long, long time. Yeah, he was good. McDonald was good. Listen, he got he did get manhandled a couple times by the big tackle over there in Cleveland, DeJuan Jones. But DeJuan Jones is a big boy.
He's a big boy.
Yeah.
No edge is going to win every play, every matchup, because there's never been an edge that's that good. I mean, that would be like beyond anything that's ever been in the league. It's impossible, right? I mean, even the best edges in the NFL, there are certain plays where they lose.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, it's the NFL. Any guy could, you can win or lose at any rep, right? And sometimes you tip your cap because they're going to get the better of you. But like I said, I think that the ceiling on a guy like Will McDonald, maybe not year one, but for his tenure is really, really high. Like he just offers something that is unique. He's a unicorn, at 6'6", the way he moves and with his length, and his quickness and his agility, he's just a unicorn out there, man. It's almost unfair.
Depending on how his preseason goes, I wonder if that would actually spell the end for Bryce Huff, because, last year they had the second round tender on Huff. And like you guys were saying, I was questioning, we're expecting to get something out of this guy this year. Why is he in the game so long? And for those of you that remember, they did the same exact thing last year with Huff, leaving him in preseason games deep into the third and fourth quarter. And I'm just like, if Will McDonald really showcases why we took him in the first round when nobody even had a first round grade on this kid, maybe they want to put him more on the field going into the season and then maybe move on from Bryce Huff. I don't know. What would you say to that?
No, I think that I think they'll both be a very integral parts of our defense. I mean, I just don't see any reason or any way to really, just choose one over the other when you have two guys that are so good and so dominant at what they do. You know what I mean? You got to imagine that the Aaron Rodgers effect is going to have us playing with leads more often, which is going to incur the other team to be throwing the ball more often. So you want to get guys on the field, especially in our defense, which is predicated by the front four. You want to get guys on the field more often that can just get at the pass rusher. And Saleh and Ulbrich have been completely transparent with their vision and their views of their defense. And the numbers and the analytics show that they want fresh legs producing on the field time after time and time in and time out. Listen, I could see situations where you have, a lead and second and long and third and long situations where you have Bryce Huff and Will McDonald coming at you from an edge with Quentin Jefferson and Quinnen Williams coming at you from the middle. I mean, who are you going to choose? Who are you going to choose to double team? Because that means you double team one. If you double team Quinnen Williams, right, you're leaving one-on-one opportunities on those other three guys. And the way that these two guys get off the edge, they're going to win more often than not on those one-on-one situations.
No,
So.
I agree. It's just the front seven. I can't remember the last time we had, depth like this in years and years. And just with Lawson coming back, Mosley, wow. I mean, it's just a lot of mouths to feed, a lot of guys to get out there and just be able to get their numbers. And I think the only weak spot we have right now is Sherwood. And so, and I know it's a long preseason. We still got to see some more action out of him.
I thought Sherwood played well. He caused the fumble. That was.
He did. I'm just saying, if you had to pick a weakness right now, it would be him because at the end of the day, he's a question mark. And we didn't bring back Quan, so he's got big shoes to fill.
Yeah, but you're right. But I think that Sherwood's the reason they didn't bring back Quan. Sherwood, you got to remember, last year was coming back from that Achilles tear he had as a rookie. And Sherwood's a speed guy. Sherwood relies on his, on his speed and, on top of an uncanny nose for the football. The guy's always around the ball. I think that he's, I think that he's in line to step in and do exactly what his role is going to be, and that's be the third linebacker. And that third linebacker in our defense is only going to see the field. Is only going to be on the field 25 to 30% of the time. We were second in the league last year in nickel base or subset packages on defense, where we have at least 5 defensive backs on the field. And if anything's indicative to what they've been doing in practice over the few days, they've been running a lot of big nickel where they have a third safety on the field. We all thought that was going to be what Chuck Clark's role was going to be, kind of that hybrid nickel / slot / overhang safety, not really playing, a deep quarter or deep half, not necessarily playing up on the line, but kind of that overhang, that middle. And they had Amos doing that today. I've seen packages where they had Trey Dean doing that as well. So the third linebacker is only going to be on the field. Listen, I think the big litmus test for Jamien Sherwood is going to be week 1, because Buffalo, is going to run a lot of 12 personnel where they have 2 tight ends on the field more often than not, which they like to throw out of. But they're, when you have 2 tight ends on the field, the tendency is to more lean towards the run. So you could have Sherwood play a little bit more in week 1, and if he shows off well, then I think we're going to be in pretty good shape. I'm not. Injuries are injuries, but with all things being equal, if everyone's healthy, I'm not necessarily concerned. Linebacker's not a worry for me.
So just to quickly jump back to the offense, I did watch this guy a little bit, and I was surprised too. I thought he did really good with his blocking. Did you pay attention to that? Were you focused on that at all?
I tried to watch as much Zach Kuntz as I could when I was out there. The guy is just so raw. He's he come from a small school. He couldn't cut it. He was he went to Penn State, and he left Penn State because he just wasn't up to par, maybe mature enough, mentally, physically, whatever, emotionally to handle that. So he transferred out to ODU, and he became kind of like a big fish in a small pond. And he excelled at that. The guy's athletic as could be. I did see him show off where I was kind of impressed is, you really watched him do some nice thing on the special teams, which was, I think, shows very, very well for him. I don't remember, off the top of my head, any, strictly offensive runs that he moved the needle all that much, but again, that's me watching the game, at real time speed, a couple times. I didn't really see him move the needle all that much. I think we have to temper expectations for a 7th round pick, a seventh round project, if you will. The guy's much more athlete than he is football player right now. He does. It's funny. He does all you would expect a guy a guy with that speed and that length and that catch radius and that size at 6'7" to, he does the things you expect him to do. He doesn't do well. He doesn't do well in contested catch situations, 50-50 balls, going up to get the ball at the high point, all that stuff, blocking, big guy like that. He doesn't do well on that stuff. At least, his college tape showed that. He does a lot of the, little stuff. He runs pretty good routes, even though he wasn't asked to run too many in college. He had a very limited route tree, even though he played a lot more slot than he did inline tight end. So that transition is going to take time, and tight end is historically the hardest position to transition from college to the pro game. So I think we need to temper our expectations on Zach Kuntz. Don't expect him to see the field all that much. I wouldn't, it's kind of, I'm still up in the air if he's going to make the final 53. The whole Bawden love really, kind of throws a big grenade into Zach Kuntz at tight end 4, because if you carry 4 tight ends and Bawden, who's left off the roster? That's the question. I could see us going 4 tight ends if Bawden wasn't here. But you're gonna, if you keep Bawden, do you only keep 3 running backs? Does that mean that Michael Carter or Bam Knight don't make the team? I don't know. Is Dalvin Cook coming? That's another. That's a whole other piece of the puzzle. So
yeah. So after Sherwood, we were also interested in Tony Adams, right? Because that's another. I think based. I know Vinny doesn't feel comfortable with Tony Adams because it's.
I didn't say that.
No, because I'm saying in the sense that it's a question mark. Well, in the sense that it is a question mark, right?
I've been hearing. I've been hearing nothing but good things about Tony Adams going back to last year. This coaching staff loves Tony Adams, and now he's finally getting his opportunity to run with the ones. And I've heard nothing but good things. I mean, I'm not there in practice, so I mean, Dom, have you been able to see him in live action at the practices?
Yeah, I saw him I've seen him in live action in a lot of the practices. I've seen I watched him in the limited game run that he had last year, specifically the Seattle game. And I watched him in college a ton. University of Illinois just completely puts out studs in the defensive backfield, and Tony Adams is just another one of those guys. I mean, the versatility that he has. I think he's our best pure, single high free safety that we have on the roster.
Wow.
The guy is. I think he has, the speed, the makeup speed to hang. He's very, very, a very strong, very good run support. Takes good angles, good tackler. Always seems to, like I said, make the right decision. I've been a fan of him since college. I'm one of the early Tony Adams stands. Remember, Tony Adams is the reason Jason Pinnock isn't on this team. And although I wasn't the biggest Jason Pinnock fan, I know a lot of Jets fans were, and they thought of him as the future and so on and so forth. And Tony Adams took his job, so the staff loves him. The staff loves him. Robert Saleh loves him. And, I think it's a safe assumption to say that right now he is, he's your starting free safety. And I'm okay with that. I think he's, I think there's a lot of good things coming down the line for Tony Adams. I think he's going to be a really, really good ball player.
I'm excited for both Adams and Sherwood. I really am. I'm excited for them to both become I think Tony Adams has a bigger chance to really shine and play a high percentage of the snaps and surprise other people in the league that with no idea who he is and end up being really good. Sherwood, like you said, he's only going to see limited snaps, but I'm excited to see him in those snaps. I'd love to see Sherwood really show up and do great. And if those are the two areas I hear the most concern about, because it is two areas where we're relying on young guys that we've developed that don't have a lot of experience, haven't played a ton of snaps. If we're strong there, think of how strong we are as a team. If those guys step up and do a great job, that's a big wow factor because everything else seems to be really strong.
Yeah, well, and you got to remember also, but speaking of Tony Adams in particular, like Sherwood, I'm a fan of Sherwood's. Do I think he's the next coming of Luke Kuechly? Probably not. But do I think he can be serviceable? A serviceable piece in a very good defense? I do. The guy has a knack for the football. He's going back from his college days. He was known as a big, fearsome hitter, and that's what he does. He tackles very well, handles in space. Is a little stiff in the hips, which it could be concerning if he was asked to man up against good tight ends like the Kelseys and the Dallas Goddards that we're going to face this year. Who else? What's the guy's name that from the Giants? Oh my God, he came over from Oakland.
Waller.
Yeah, Waller. Yeah. And then you got guys like Dalton Kincaid and Tyler Croft, or not Tyler Croft, the other guy in Buffalo. There's good tight ends that, asked to cover one-on-one. Sherwood's not that, that's where he really struggles. He's a little stiff, like I said, but our defense is predicated that he doesn't have to do that. You know what I mean? If he can get back and find his depth in his zone and make sure he carries guys over from his zone and affects the run game as he can and as he's shown in the limited 128 snaps last year. I think when CJ Mosley went out for that one game, I believe it was Seattle, maybe it was Jacksonville, and Sherwood came in as a replacement, 5 straight plays, 5 straight tackles for Jamie Sherwood. So he's he's fine. Tony Adams, again, in our defense, it's not that you can hide guys, but he doesn't have to, he just has to play his role. if he does his job and is in his area and covers his zone and takes the right angles and supports the run, doesn't let anyone get past him deep like Joyner did a ton last year. Yeah, your outside corners and Michael Carter II. I mean, they're those guys. They're legit, probably top end of the spectrum in regards to NFL defensive backs. So the safeties just have to play their role in our defense. You're going to get out, ideally, you're going to get out the quarterback with the front four, and everyone else can just sit strong and comfortably in their zone and make plays and be athletes. And that's exactly what Jamie Sherwood and Tony Adams are. They're phenomenal athletes. So,
okay. I mean, look, we say it all the time since Saleh came here.
Mhm.
We've said it all the time. The defense is predicated on getting to the quarterback with four guys.
That's right.
If those four guys do their job, this defense works. We know it for a fact because we see it in San Francisco for year after year for it's probably up to 6-7 years now. And what's interesting is when we first put it in place that first year, we didn't have the personnel for it. But now it feels like we do. Now it feels like we have the personnel to effectively run this defense. I mean, we saw what we did last year. We went from 32nd in the league to 4th in the league.
Yeah.
So, and now it feels like we have even more personnel because we have more depth at defensive line.
We have more depth and we're healthier. You got Carl Lawson coming back another year off of that Achilles injury, which they say the second year is the healthiest. In that same token, you got Jamie Sherwood in the second year coming off of that Achilles injury. As long as you don't see any regression from guys like JFM, I think we've all heard how well, and I'll tell you with my own eyes, I've seen how well Jermaine Johnson's playing this preseason. I mean, he can't be stopped. Now, again, a lot of it's against Billy Turner, and I'm pretty sure Vinny could, get to the quarterback against Billy Turner. No offense, Vinny. But like Jermaine Johnson is just really, he's playing through the wall. So he's playing through the roof. As long as you don't see any regression from these guys on, that played up last year, like I said, to the likes of JFM and Lawson and whatnot. I think sky's the limit for the defense, man. You don't get any regression from Sauce or DJ Reed, which I'm not that's the least of my worries are those two guys. The defense is set to be, again, another, top 6 in the league. Now, a question, I'm concerned, is it, if I have any concerns with the defense, it's how we're going to play against the run, and our defensive line per se can still tend to get over aggressive. As you can see, what was the one thing that Cleveland did well on Thursday? I mean, they ran 3 or 4 screens that, our guys just got over aggressive and they blocked it out well at the second level. And, every screen that they threw, I think was, positive yardage. So I want to see how we hold up against the run. I think Al Woods is going to be, a big player in that. He's going to take that. He's going to take a big role. We still have to continue to see, an uptick in Quentin Williams to really, for him to take it to that even next level, that elite status. I think it's all safe. It's safe to assume that we all expect that. But that's still one man. Everyone else still, did CJ Mosley lose a step? Can he still be, as good against the run as he has in years past? Can Al Woods and Quentin Jefferson, combine and fill in, Sheldon Rankins and Foley's role from last year? Could our defensive ends in, JJ and JFM and Michael Clemens, when he's rotating in and out, can they solidify themselves or take the next step against the run? That's what I'm concerned about. If there's anything to really be worried about on our defense, it's how we're going to play against the run.
I wonder if they're planning on Clemens and JFM at the very least to be the depth on the inside, because we know we have Woods and Jefferson, but like after that, what I saw in that game on Thursday, the biggest weakness on the team, in my opinion, where we look the worst, was the two inside guys in the defensive line.
Well,
Like,
you saw a lot of Tanzel Smart, and
Yeah.
I've never been a big Tanzel Smart guy. You know,
it was ugly. It was ugly in the
Yeah.
middle there. I mean,
yeah,
those
you
guys
didn't.
were-
I didn't see Solly Thomas play. Now I don't know if he was gifted like the veteran
Oh, I forgot
day,
about
the
him.
day off, but you do have him. He was really a non-factor last year.
Right.
Al Woods didn't play, so you know. Again, you have to take everything we saw on Thursday with a grain of salt. You know, if we're running a game strictly against our twos versus their twos, like they're going to run against us because our second tier defensive linemen are probably doo-doo compared. The the Tanzel Smarts and those guys are those guys. He's not going to probably make the roster. You know what I mean? So Quentin Jefferson can get at the quarterback. He hasn't been very solid against the run. That hasn't been asked to do that so much in years past.
Mhm.
So a lot's going to rely on how much playing time Al Woods can get in those situations. And who's going to be? Is that Michael Clemens? Is Michael Clemens going to move inside on some rundowns? They bulked him up to 295 pounds.
Do you think bringing up, Furious brings up Hamza Nasruddin? Do you think that the releasing him was only because of his performance, or do you think it's also confidence in Sherwood?
I think releasing him as they did now was probably geared around the fact that he's injured. Oh, look at the puppy. I think the injury probably had to play more so than anything. I don't think it was anything. Yeah, I mean, listen, Hamza Nasruddin, listen, he was a 6th round pick. Again, I think we all really liked Hamza Nasruddin as a 6th round pick because people had him in that draft class going in the 2nd and 3rd round, right? So you wanted him, a 6th round pick, it seems like a steal, but he just never developed. And, you got good guys on the roster. Sometimes 6th round picks aren't going to make it,
I think part of it has to do, they just want to do right by the player and say, listen, there's 3 weeks left of preseason, we want to give you enough time to, try to land somewhere else.
Yeah, and there could be more to it too as well. Like, you're right. I agree with what you're saying, Vin. Like, kind of you give the guy a chance, but coming off an injury, I'm sure he's going to go unclaimed. And maybe that just happens to be, after the 53 happens, he comes back on the team. They sign him right to the practice squad and let him get healthy. Let him get healthy there. But I think they realized that they probably needed some more camp bodies in right now. I don't think any of these 2 guys that we signed were anything more than just that, just depth pieces. While Hamza was hurt and Chaz Surratt also dealing with a hammy.
Cool.
So
everybody meet Klecko.
What's up, Klecko?
What's up, buddy?
Oh,
Good dog.
He's also
you got a new studio, Jeremy?
This is my wife's workout room and office because it's 102 degrees in Sac today, and I didn't want to have to cool off the entire upstairs just for this show.
Gotcha.
I have to run. It's a dual zone air conditioner, but I would have to run it for like 5 hours up there. It just didn't seem worth it.
I get it, man. I get it.
Yeah.
It was a scorcher here on the East Coast too today. So
yeah, it was hot. I was at camp today, and it was stifling hot today.
Yeah.
Well, at least they got the covers now for the fans. Like, I haven't been to Florham Park in a good couple of years, but before it was just the bleachers right under the sun.
Yeah. Well, the only problem with that for me, Vin, was I had my 7-year-old with me, so he was in like the jet section where they have a little section for
Generation
the kids.
Jets. Yes.
Generation Jets. A little section for the kids. So I wanted to sit in the stands, but be close to him if he needed me. So I wasn't covered anyways. It was hot. Today was hot. Yeah, absolutely. So the one thing I know we're at 10:30. I don't know what time you guys are planning on going to, but there was one guy I wanted to talk about or one position I want to talk about with you guys to see how you guys where you guys stand, and then I'll give you my thoughts. Talk to me about how you guys feel with our running back room, as constituted, with Dalvin Cook, without Dalvin Cook, however it goes.
Both ways.
However.
If we can add Dalvin Cook to this roster, I'm 100% for. He only makes the team better, not worse. And in the process, I said this on another episode, considering both Miami and New England have shown interest, you hurt them in the process and keeping him away from your rivals. So if we can give Dalvin Cook in the building, I 100% want him. If he doesn't want to sign here and go back to hometown Miami, nobody's going to shed tears here, because at this point, I consider him a luxury, not a necessity. I expect Brees to play week 1. Depending on how many carries they're going to give him is going to, depend, how's the ACL feeling coming off of that injury. I think he was able to get enough time to recover, considering we lost him in week 7. So that should help in our favor. I'm really not a big fan of Michael Carter, but do I mind him on the roster if we keep him? No. Bam Knight, I consider him a practice player. So, I mean, if this is the running back room right now without Dalvin Cook, fine. If they seriously think that we need another running back in the room, I think it tells that they don't think Brees is going to be ready for September. I know they've shown interest in Ezekiel Elliott. I'm not really a fan of his. I am a big fan of Kareem Hunt, and it doesn't seem like they've knocked on his door lately. But it's not like running backs aren't out there. There's running backs on the market. You could pluck one out there. I wouldn't put all of our eggs into the Dalvin Cook basket, but if they put him in green and white, please sign me up.
Jeremy was taking notes frantically.
I did. I was writing. I was.
He's ready to crucify me. So go ahead.
No, I was taking notes with my pencil. No, I agree 100% that if we get, I mean, at the first level, we're a better team with Dalvin Cook on it. Okay. I mean, I don't know what it means for the future and salary and money and what they're going to do with the money. I mean, forget all that aside. Are we a better roster with Dalvin Cook? Of course. He's went over 1,000 yards 4 years in a row. He's a veteran running back. He's a proven entity. You know exactly what you get. He's good as a receiver. He's explosive. He can catch a 5-yard screen pass or turn it into a touchdown. This makes you a better team. There's no question about it. Is he a big, huge needle mover? Because of where we are, it's not the same thing as we have no running backs and we get Dalvin Cook, and now we have like the situation of we went from Zach Wilson to Aaron Rodgers. It's not that, but we're a better team with Dalvin Cook. I agree 100%, and I agree 100% that it's nice to keep him out of Miami. It's fine to keep him out of Miami. It's good to keep him out of New England or anywhere he might go in our division. But and that aside, I think that the second level to this is it's just going to tell a story. If we sign him, it does make me think there are some more doubts about Brees Hall and how they want to use him. It means that they, at the very least, want to work him back very slowly. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense, really, to bring Cook. It wouldn't make sense for Cook to come here if they were planning on using Brees Hall 20 carries a game from week 1, right? Why would he even be interested in that? So that if they brought him here, it means they told him you're going to have a big workload early in the season for sure. If he goes somewhere else, and I'm stealing this from Nick Shine, if he goes somewhere else, then to me, it might indicate, depending on the salary, if he goes somewhere else and it's not crazy, it's $6-7 million, that means that we are very confident in Brees Hall, because there's no way we let Dalvin Cook walk over $6 to $7 million if we're not confident in Brees Hall. So I think that there's some information we're going to get based on what happens and based on the size of the salary. But I like our guys. I have not turned on Michael Carter. I have not given up on Michael Carter, although he'll be the odd man out, very likely. I have not given up on him because he looked good his rookie year. He looked good the early half of last year. He went to crap when Van Knight went to crap, when AVT and the entire offensive line became an infirmary and there was no blocking and every defense said, Zach Wilson can't do a thing. Let's put 8-9 guys in the box. And there are very few running backs in the NFL that would have been able to overcome that. And nobody is saying that Bam Knight or Michael Carter were expected to be an elite, that kind of running back. That's Brees Hall. but it doesn't mean they're not good, solid running backs that will play as well as the offensive line blocks for them.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that last statement. I too am on the board with, I think Dalvin Cook makes us a better team. I too am on board, but I also am on board where I think Dalvin Cook is more of a need than people want to play it off as right now. Now, some of that has to do with Brees Hall. I still wouldn't be surprised. I know Vinny talked about him playing week 1, and maybe he does, but I still wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't happen. I wouldn't be surprised if he's eased slowly back into the fold. So, there's that. Then there's, the whole Israel Abanikanda situation. Now, he's going to make the roster. Izzy offers the one thing that nobody in our backfield other than Brees Hall has, and that's the true game-breaking speed. However, if there was any guy on the team that I was really, really down on after Thursday's game, it was Izzy Abanikanda. He scored a touchdown, nice 10-yard run where he caught the corner and used that speed to get there. But every other run lacked what I expect to see in an NFL ready football player. The guy, he's still he's indecisive. He's still, listen, the kid's 20 years old, and sky's the limit for him, but he needs to do what Bam Knight did last year, what Michael Carter did his first year is plant his foot and get vertical on the hole. To all that dilly dancing and going down on first contact, it's just not going to cut it. So if anything, I soured a little bit on the effect that Israel Abanikanda is going to have on our offense this year. He might come in for a couple series or two and be able to hit a home run, absolutely, but I don't think there's anything that you can depend on him for. So if you're not dependent on Izzy Abanikanda, or at least I wouldn't. If I'm not dependent on Izzy Abanikanda, and I know that Brees Hall is not yet up to snuff or up to par and still working off that injury, I'm running to bring in Dalvin Cook. Absolutely running.
Yeah. And it's hard to know when and myself included, when us providers put teasers, because teasers are the way to get you to click and watch our shows. And it's what we have to do. We're not on here to talk to 3 people, right? We want people to come into the room. We want people to be here. So we're going to do anything that we feel we could legitimately do. I love Jake Osmond. Do I think he knows anybody or knows anything any of us don't know? No. He doesn't have any real inside contacts that can tell you any more than we already know about Dalvin Cook or Ezekiel Elliott. And the reason I say that is because our organization run by JD does not leak things, that we don't do that. And if anybody knows anything, everybody's going to know everything. Whatever is really known out there comes from pictures of the person in our building or the agent saying we're visiting the Jets. It's like we've got to get over this whole thing about these little rumors and, the Jets are interested in this, until you see it come from JD, from the Jets front office, from an agent, from the players showing a picture of himself and saying it. I wouldn't read into anything.
Yeah.
And I also wouldn't rule out the fact that we're going to get Dalvin Cook just because it hasn't happened yet. It's not uncommon for JD to take time to sign someone after they visited our building. And remember the offensive line, Moses.
Mm-hmm.
He came and it took 2 weeks to sign him.
Yeah.
And we really needed an offensive lineman.
I think that's a great point, Jeremy. I think that the interest is real on both sides with Dalvin Cook and Joe Douglas or the Jets. I don't know which side has more interest. Maybe you could say that the Jets bringing him in kind of tipped their hand and showed them that they are interested, that they're for real. And where there's smoke, there's fire. All this other stuff with Ezekiel Elliott is nothing but smoke. And I wouldn't be surprised if his agent was putting that out, just drumming up some other teams to kind of get, the asking price from New England or Dallas or wherever else he's talking about possibly signing, to get a couple extra $1 million out of him. So
it's like you guys said, people will put anything out there for clickbait. Like Ezekiel Elliott, he was just recently photographed at a diner or a restaurant with Mac Jones and Patriots personnel. On Jets Twitter, it's just the littlest things will get out there and send us all into a frenzy because we're so used to getting burned as a franchise. Like at one point they mentioned, oh, well, the Jets and Dalvin Cook, they're about $1 million apart in negotiations. And then another rumor came out and they said, well, they don't see eye to eye on who's RB1 and who's RB2 between Brees and Dalvin. You know what I mean? It's silly. At the end of the day, he's going to come here, and I think he's going to come at JD's asking price. Because JD, as we know, is historically, he's never been known to overpay. This isn't Mike McCagnon that would just throw a bag of money at anybody to suit up in green and white.
Yeah.
And
you're spot on with that, Vinny. You're absolutely right that Joe Douglas has his number, and he's not going to move off his number. But the peculiar thing to me was stemming back. I know it didn't pan out, but the number that he was willing to spend on OBJ, that to me I thought was very, very interesting. Now they were going to pay him upwards of $10 million.
Yeah,
to me that's crazy. So to me, bringing in Dalvin Cook at $6 or $7 million is a no brainer. I've been an advocate since day one. I'd give him 2 years, $15 million guaranteed, with the opportunity to make another $4 or $5 million in incentives. Hey, if you get this many carries, you get this many. Bring him in, lock him in for 2 years, his year 27, 28, and then you have what happens next year. All right, Brees is back to 100%. Okay, Brees is your running back, and Dalvin Cook is There's very few teams, but maybe a handful, 3 or 4 teams that have a true bell cow running back. I'm not saying that Brees Hall can't do that. He definitely has the ability to be that 3-down bell cow running back. But Nathaniel Hackett has never run his offense like that. Aaron Rodgers has never run their offense like that. Running back by committees and keeping guys fresh and having guys with specific skill sets or that can come in and not skip a beat when the other guy subs out is a real thing. I mean, look, Aaron Jones was a perennial all-pro player, and what they do, they brought in A.J. Dillon, and he started to split carries. That's just what happens in NFL right now. If your name's not Nick Chubb or King Henry, then you're probably not going to see 300, 350 carries anymore. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's slowly becoming less part of the game. As far as Ezekiel Elliott, because I'm always saying something about him go. I don't care if he goes to Buffalo, New England, Miami. I couldn't care less. Ezekiel Elliott does not concern me at all. I consider Michael Carter better than Ezekiel Elliott at this point of Ezekiel Elliott's career. He is not a scary player. He's not a fast player. He's not an explosive player. He is. Maybe at one point he was scary. But to be honest, the day he signed his contract, I never saw him look scary. I saw another guy come in there, Tony Pollard, who looked better than Ezekiel the first time he ever carried the ball for the Dallas Cowboys. So I don't care where Ezekiel goes. He's just a Jag. That's all he is.
A lot of that has to do with Jerry Jones historically has been known to cave to players, whether it was Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott. He always tends to cave. He's not a good negotiator. He ain't Joe Douglas.
Yeah. Even Cowboy fans will tell you, they don't care about Ezekiel Elliott anymore.
No.
My good friends who are Dallas fans are disappointed with his career overall, to be honest. Yeah. He said he wasn't worth the money. He wasn't worth the big contracts.
Yeah. And then they brought in a coach who hates running the ball, which was silly. They gave Zeke, $50 million. They end up firing Coach Clapp. You bring in Mike McCarthy, and it's like, oh, by the way, we're not running the ball anymore.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, but Dalvin Cook would make me nervous on a Miami or New England. Or New England, I still think we'd be better than them. I wouldn't say, oh, that's it, New England's going to overtake us in the division. But I don't want them to get better, and he would make them better.
I don't think Dalvin Cook's not going to New England. The reality is that it's probably 70-30. Dalvin Cook is 70% signed with the Jets, 30% signed with the Dolphins. I think those are the only two options. Now, Dallas is an interesting one, but Dallas hasn't been rumored around Cook. There has been no grumblings about that, but they don't have Zeke there anymore. They have Pollard coming off of an injury last year, so they're going to need to bring in somebody. So it surprises me that he hasn't really drudged up any. You haven't heard anything about Dalvin Cook to Dallas at all, but if he signs somewhere, my money's on it. He lands with the Jets, and I'll be happy.
Big question mark. Why hasn't Indianapolis chased Dalvin Cook, given the situation with their running back, who I doubt
they stink.
ever playing a snap for them again?
Well, they stink. I mean, they're not making a run this year. They're starting a rookie quarterback. They got their issues with Jonathan Taylor. I mean, what's Dalvin Cook going there for 1 to 2 years? Are they even going to be a playoff team this year? I highly doubt it. If anything, that would be a waste of time for Dalvin Cook.
I mean, that would be Cook saying, "Yeah, I want to win, but these guys are offering me a lot more money."
Well, yeah, that would just come down to, is he more worried about making money? I think the Jets and Miami both present him with the opportunity to win. You know what I mean? I don't even think New England gives them an opportunity to win. That would just be going to the Pats and being able to play for Bill Belichick, but they're not ready to make a run either.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, listen, Dalvin Cook could start on many an NFL team, but I think Vinny's right. I mean, there's teams that just doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit in the timeline. Arizona and Indianapolis and Carolina just doesn't. They're Houston. Houston, I guess that they have a couple good running backs in there now, but they signed Singletary, and they got Pierce and Singletary. So, but I digress. I think that the timeline doesn't fit for some of these guys, But if you told me Dallas, who has they have a championship caliber team, he makes sense there. He definitely makes sense with the Jets. He definitely makes sense with Miami. He definitely makes sense with Cincinnati. Because who knows what you're getting from Joe Mixon.
Yeah, it's so weird because 2 years ago, not even, Indianapolis was like a quarterback away. Like, if they find the right quarterback, they're a Super Bowl contender. They had this
how quick the league can flip, though.
It's amazing how fast it can click. They had a defense that strips the ball. They had the best offensive line. They had, they had so much, and they just totally crashed.
They started the tailspin right with the surprise retirement with Andrew Luck, because now it's just been the turning carousel at quarterback for them. I feel sorry, but I mean, it just goes to show, man, how important the quarterback position is. It could set you back 5 years.
Well, set us back 40, so
50.
Fair point. So.
That's why I don't feel sorry for them. It's like, welcome to our lives.
Yeah.
They had Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck. They don't have my pity.
No.
So, I mean, there are certain teams that just have had quarterbacks forever. It's crazy.
Yeah, like Green Bay.
30
plus years of Hall of Fame quarterback play.
San Diego Chargers. Drew Brees for a couple of years, Phillip Rivers all those years, and now Justin Herbert. It's a lot of good quarterbacking.
Sure is.
Yeah.
Sure is.
Yeah. So let's see. So I was just wondering what the chat thinks. That's more valuable right now to keep Rodgers upright. Okay, so Cook is good. Do you agree that Cook is good for pass protection?
I think he's experienced. I think he's willing. I watched a lot of Dalvin Cook in preparation for all the hubbub that's been going around, and I necessarily wouldn't say that he's good. I'd say he's willing. And again, you have to take everything from last year with Dalvin Cook with a grain of salt, man, because he was playing with the same injury that Dwayne Brown has, that torn labrum. That's what Dalvin Cook was playing with. So he was really, really hurt the entire season. So that might have something to do with it, but I don't know if I'm necessarily there on Cook can pick up a block or pick up the blitz. I think Breece Hall can very well. I was very impressive of his protection and blitz pickup. I think that Bam Knight does a really good job. I think Michael Carter doesn't. No No, but Michael Carter's an anomaly, man, because I think he offers the one thing that the others don't, and that's including Izzy Bandakanda, is that he has the ability to be a threat in the pass game, especially in a Rodgers-led offense, which wants to utilize the running backs out of the backfield.
Yeah, Carter could really. That's why everybody's so anxious to get rid of him and blah blah blah. I really want to see what Michael Carter could do with an Aaron Rodgers. That could be a scary combination.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this: Bam Knight has been the best running back in camp, and I don't think there's a question of that to this point. But gun to my head, if Dalvin Cook's on this roster and we only keep 4 running backs,
Carter's gone.
No, I think Bam Knight is gone.
Really?
Even though he's been the best. Yeah, I do.
Why would they do that?
Because, like I said, I think that Michael Carter can offer something out of the backfield to effectuate the pass game that no other running back outside of Breece Hall can.
You know what that would tell me, Dom? I think that would just say that's the general manager being loyal to his draft pick, saying I invested a draft pick into this kid and I'm not cutting him because we got Bam Knight off.
No,
nothing.
I think, but I don't think that's. I think that's a fair point, Vin. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think he's holding him because he's a draft pick. But the reality is that you did spend capital on him a couple years ago, and Bam Knight, he's definitely slower. He's not as athletic. You have what Bam Knight You have what Bam Knight offers already with a healthy Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook. Michael Carter just offers you that one other thing that is a little bit different, and that's how he could effectuate the pass game. Now, last year, if you get a repeat of the Michael Carter of last year, he was really sloppy last year. Like his head wasn't in the game, too many drops, and so on and so forth. But Michael Carter of his rookie season, where he showed that elite burst and contact balance, everything's falling forward. I think I take Michael Carter. I do. I think he can. And honestly, I think if that's the case, again, this is just my opinion, but I think if that's the case, I think Bam Knight goes through unclaimed. I don't think Bam Knight gets claimed. I think you can get him back on the practice squad and eventually get him back on the 53.
Well,
I think as Jet fans,
for that.
I think as Jet fans, we kind of tend to overhype our own guys a little too much. Bam Knight, and this is no disrespect because I like the player, but he's not dominant in anything, and he runs a 4.6. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He's James Robinson.
Right.
He's James Robinson. That's exactly what he is. He's James Robinson. Can he get you a little bit more juice in the interior, like those middle, those inside zones and stuff like that? Absolutely, he could. More so than Michael Carter, but I think Michael Carter's what he can do as a receiver out of the backfield is much more valuable to the overall team.
I mean, I guess you have to look at the room, and you're saying that Michael Carter makes more sense in our room if we were to get
correct. Correct.
Michael Carter makes the most sense, but I mean, I would hope you're right. And we get to keep Bam Knight on the practice squad, but I don't know if I'm overhyping him. I would imagine there are teams out there that would want him. I mean, I just think I thought he did a really good job, and the fact that he's the best back we got in camp right now. Other teams I thought pay attention. It's going to be on Hard Knocks, which has made a difference before because a lot more people see the guys. They say that there is the Hard Knocks factor because it makes more people aware because they're going to know he's having a good camp. I don't know, but I understand your point. One of them has to go, and it's not going to be Izzy. They're not going to cut Izzy unless he's a complete.
No, they're not. Israel Bandakanda is on the team,
right?
Israel Bandakanda is on the team. Breece Hall, if he's healthy, obviously he's on the team. And if Dalvin Cook's on the team, then the decision is going to come between Bam Knight and Michael Carter, and it could really, really go either way. Realistically, Bam Knight has had the better camp than Michael Carter, but I think Michael Carter is better for the offense.
Do you think it's that? Do you think it's a mistake to be so Like for them to be so blindly loyal to the fact or so stuck on the fact that because they drafted Izzy, he has to be on the roster. Like,
No,
is that a
Yeah.
mistake or is that for a reason?
no, I don't think it's a mistake. I think that again, Izzy offers something that no other running back on the team does, and that's the chance to take any one play to the house any single time. Again, and he's 20 years old. He's not even 21 years old yet. He's turning 21 years old in August. You know,
Yeah, it's a baby.
He's a baby. He's going to make the team. He's absolutely going to make.
Right,
There's a
I
chance.
have no doubt. I have no
there's
doubt
a-
he's going to make the team. I'm just asking if you think it's a mistake.
No. I
That's
don't
all.
think.
That's
I don't
all
think.
I was asking,
I don't
yeah.
think it's a mistake at all. Listen, not for guys like Bam Knight. You know, I think if push came to shove, if it's Bam, if spot 53 is down to Bam Knight or is he Banacanda, even though I just told you how I was very unimpressed with Izzy's game on Thursday, I take Izzy Banacanda 10 out of 10 times. I'll go find another Bam Knight in free agency or in UDFA. Good guy, works hard. You know, I'm sure, does all the little things, but he's in essence, he's a 4.65 running back. You know, he doesn't do any one thing special. Izzy has that one thing that's very, very special, and that's track speed.
Crazy speed.
You can't coach that. You know, you can coach him on the other stuff. You can coach him on, how to plant his foot and get vertical. Hit a hole and hit it. You can coach him on, not to run with a good pad level, to kind of drive from using his legs as opposed to just leaning at the waist, which is something that he does a lot. Those are things that are coachable, but you're talking, 4.3 speed to 4.65 speed. It's a non-starter.
Because what it does is it gives Izzy a much bigger ceiling.
Absolutely. I mean, the guy. He can literally take the play to the house anytime. Now, that might be 1 out of every 20 times he touches the ball. You know, I mean, he might average less yards per carry if given the same amount of carries as Bam Knight. Bam Knight might better have a better yards per carry average, but Izzy's gonna have a chance to break every single one of those to the house.
Yeah. Yeah, and we saw that as troubling as some of his runs were on Thursday, the touchdown was great. Someone said based on the angle of the defender and the situation right at that moment when he was given the ball, there's a 30% chance he would score. Someone gave some crazy, I don't know if there's any validity to it, but somebody was saying that there was only a 30% chance of any NFL running back scoring on that play based on the situation the moment he was handed the ball. I didn't know. I'm not able to tell those things, but he definitely got there because of his speed, right? I mean, that's one of the reasons he got into the end zone. So,
yeah. Listen, the speed is real, and it's a nice run. That 10-yard run was nice, but the other, 7 or 8 carries that, amounted into nothing, amounted into him getting through the line and turning his back. If there was such a thing as negative contact balance, like what's the opposite of contact balance when you're falling forward and gaining yards on everything? He does the opposite right now. Right. But again, he's 20 years old, man. He's 20 years old. He's learning how to play running back in the NFL.
He's gonna get stronger. He's gonna learn things, techniques. There's like so much more for someone his age. I mean, he's just this kid from Brooklyn, and it means something because I know if he went to Lincoln, he didn't have the same program as these guys that went to Florida, Texas. Like even the high school he went to. Believe me, I went to that high school system. They do not have the coaching that some of these other guys had. They really didn't. Not to put down the coach of Lincoln High School in Brooklyn. I'm just saying it's not the same. Because there's 30 people watching the football games. It's not the same as Friday Night Lights in Texas, and the sophistication of the programs.
Yeah, sure.
So this kid probably has so much room for growth with coaching because he probably didn't really get that high level of coaching until he got to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so there's probably a tremendous amount of talent there and potential. And that's exciting when you read things like 4% chance he would score and he scored. Well, that's exciting because if he does learn those other things, he might be an amazing, an excellent running back.
Well,
And,
well, like I said, man, he does the the stuff that he doesn't do well, and there was a lot of it on Thursday that he did not do well as Ibanekanda, and the stuff that he doesn't do well is all coachable, but you can't. There's no way to coach up, track star speed. That's what he's already got, man.
I think we should shout out our kickers, our punter and our kicker. I think they both had excellent games.
Sure did.
Greg the leg.
It's nice to not have to worry about that for once. I mean, Christ, it's been it's been through since who was the last kicker that we had that was any good? Myers?
Nick Folk or Jason Myers?
Jason Myers, right? I don't remember Nick Folk was here, but
Nick Folk during those playoff runs with Rex.
He was here. Nick Folk was here, but we had Myers who we let go. That was the big mistake. We had him,
and that was a money situation, which was ridiculous.
Yeah. But it doesn't matter now. Now we have Greg the leg, and that's a nice thing. And then we have, and we have a punter who doesn't muff. Hopefully, knock on wood, who's not going to muff 1 out of 5 punts. And that was my problem with our punter. He literally would muff 1 out of every 5 punts, and you just can't have it.
I'm so glad he's gone. Yeah, I couldn't stand him. I'll just never forgive him for costing us Trevor Lawrence. That's how I'll always remember that man. No pun intended with the last name.
Well, I'm not going to ever knock anybody for doing their job and doing something well, but I do kind of wish he would have missed that tackle.
We all did. Right. We all did.
But hey, everything happens for a reason. I mean, as much as great, look at Trevor Lawrence. I'm not saying it would have been great, but right now at this moment, we have Aaron Rodgers, and he's more than just a capable quarterback. What Trevor Lawrence doesn't do that Aaron Rodgers does is he is a freaking coach on the field, and he's making everybody better. And that's giving me a lot of hope. That's giving me a lot of hope. Yeah, I love the fact that he's out there, because when he's out there, we're not going to get pushed around by more experience in other words, we have the guy out there, and he's going to lead these kids, and and we also have Lazard, who's a veteran now, and Corey Davis is a veteran, and Garrett Wilson. It doesn't matter because he's a phenom, and Breece Hall is a phenom, and we have 2 tight ends that are veterans. Like, we're men out there now. These are men. These are experienced. Good, not only talent, but they're older mentality-wise. They're men. They're grown-ups. So we're ready to win. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's hard not to be excited this year, man. It's hard not to be excied. So,
yeah. Dom, I want to thank you for being coming on tonight. This was great.
My pleasure, dude. It was a lot of fun. Sorry I couldn't come through and have more in-depth video stuff done, but rest assured, I'll be happy to do it during the year once the all 22s are out.
Cool.
I'll be doing it a lot on my own channel, if not plenty elsewhere. On Wednesday night for the Beanbaggers, I will be doing a all 22 review every week for the week coming up for the team that we will be playing. And I'm sure I'll be doing something. My co-host now also on Monday nights at 7 p.m. with Buffalo Jets fan on his channel. So I'm sure we'll be doing some game breakdown and film studies as those go on too. On top of all the prospect stuff that you can always catch from me.
Nice.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And as always, when the season's over and we start moving towards the draft season, you'll be back on Sunday nights.
Yes, sir.
So that's always fun. Vinny, any parting words or?
No, Dom, it was awesome having you on. I mean, I could tell we could talk Jets football till the cows come home. So
yeah,
one Sunday closer to when it's real, and I can't wait for September 11th. I can't just to see everything come to fruition, and just seeing Aaron Rodgers play for our team. It's still just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun season for sure.
I want to thank everybody in the chat. You guys are what makes it work. You're why we're here. It's really would be kind of ridiculous if it wasn't for everybody that's viewing it and all of you in the chat. So I thank all of you for watching and for supporting us. We appreciate that. And this is the Vinny and the Jets show in the Jets Lounge on Sunday nights. And we will be back next week at 9 o'clock, same time. So thanks, everyone. Be good, and I'll see you Wednesday night. I'll be back with the ugly one, the big one, Nick Shine.
Good night from the lounge.
Yep. And he is very, very ugly.
Let's go! We need JJ! We want JJ! We want JJ! We want JJ! Let's go!
JJ! We got Johnson! We got Johnson at 26! We got Johnson at 26! This is great!
It is Matt, it is Richie. We are hanging out with the Jets Lounge guys. Richie, my man, how's it going?
Matt, this is sick. We're at the Jets Lounge event in Farmingdale. The main event is what it's called. We got the entire Rucker family over there.
Jets!